There comes a moment, silent, invisible to the world, when a human being finally meets themselves. Not the version shaped by fear, not the one imprisoned by expectation, but the real self, raw, infinite, untamed. And in that single moment, in that sacred confrontation, the course of their life begins to bend. Not by chance, not by accident, but by decision. Because there is power, unmatched and undeniable, in a made-up mind. History never remembers the passive. It never sings the names of the hesitant. It honors those who stood at the edge of uncertainty and jumped anyway. Those who decided, not when the skies were clear, but when storms howled and doubts screamed. Those who carved their path through stone, not because it was easy, but because they refused to let the world choose for them. The truth is brutal and beautiful. Your life changes the day you do. Not when the economy shifts. Not when people believe in you. Not when you're given a sign. But the day you decide deep in your bones that you will no longer be ruled by fear, by circumstance, by your past. This is the moment that separates the masses from the legends. Thomas Edison was not born with light in his hands. He failed 10,000 times before the bulb lit the room. But it was never about the light, it was about the decision. The refusal to accept that failure was final. The inner knowing that persistence would bend the universe before he bent his will. That's not motivation. That's spiritual warfare. That's soul-level commitment. And you have that same spark within you. Not a whisper, a roar waiting to be awakened. The world has conditioned you to wait. Wait for approval. Wait for timing. Wait until you feel ready. But the greats didn't wait, they created. They stared into the chaos and declared, I will not leave this world quietly. I will rise, even if I must rise alone. Because mindset isn't just a tool. It is the foundation of your reality. It is the lens through which you see every obstacle, every failure, every breath. Change your mindset, and you don't just change your path, you change your destiny. So let this be the day. The day you draw a line in the sand and say, enough. Enough of shrinking to fit in. Enough of waking up just to survive. Enough of waiting for a feeling to do what you were born to do. You were not made to be average. You were not made to die with your potential buried under comfort. You were made to create, to disrupt, to build, to break cycles and blaze trails. And the only thing standing between who you are and who you could become is a decision. Decide that the excuses end here. Decide that your past no longer holds the pen. Decide that fear is no longer your master. Because when you decide, truly decide, the world rearranges itself. Doors appear. Strength rises. The fog clears. Not because the world changed, but because you did. And this is the beginning of the fire. Now comes the refining. Discipline is the quiet architect of greatness. It builds in silence what others only dream of in noise. It's not flashy. It doesn't ask for applause. But day by day, it becomes the spine of your vision. Look at Carnegie, a man who began his life in poverty and died controlling empires. He was not born with power. He built it brick by brick, choice by choice. The power was not in his bank account. It was in his consistency. He chose to rise while others slept. He studied while others wasted. He planted while others wandered. Discipline is not punishment. It is devotion. It is the promise you make to your future self, honored in action. But here's the secret. You don't have to feel like it. Your emotions are not your master. You are not the victim of your moods. You are the commander of your will. The world is full of brilliant people who never moved because they waited to be in the mood. But your destiny will not bow to your feelings. It will bow to your standards. Discipline is choosing your future over your comfort. Choosing to sweat now so you don't bleed later. Choosing to be uncommon in a world addicted to distraction. And yes, it is lonely at times. But the summit was never meant for the crowd. So if you feel the burn of solitude, good. It means you're leaving the crowd. It means you're no longer asking for permission to be great. You're taking it. Because everything changes. The day you decide. Decision lights the fire. Discipline keeps it burning. But clarity, that's the wind that drives it forward. A man without clarity is like a ship without a compass, adrift, vulnerable, at the mercy of the current. He may be moving, but he's not going anywhere. He confuses motion with progress, and busyness with purpose. Decision lights the fire. Discipline keeps it burning. But clarity, that's the wind that drives it forward. A man without clarity is like a ship without a compass, adrift, vulnerable, at the mercy of the current. He may be moving, but he's not going anywhere. He confuses motion with progress and busyness with purpose. Clarity is the cutting edge of vision. It defines the difference between activity and achievement, between distraction and destiny. Without clarity, we become slaves to noise. We chase trends, we copy others, we drown in the how because we've forgotten the why. But the moment you decide, and I mean truly decide, to know who you are and what you want, the fog begins to lift. Clarity doesn't come from waiting. It comes from movement. It comes from walking into the unknown and carving your values into the earth with every step. It's not just about knowing what you want. It's about knowing what you won't accept. Walt Disney saw theme parks while others saw orange groves. He envisioned castles before he had coins. He didn't need the world to agree with him. He needed clarity. And that clarity was so powerful, so magnetic, that it turned ridicule into reality. Clarity is a force. When you carry it, you no longer beg for direction, you become direction. And with clarity comes purpose. Not the shallow kind we see on posters or Instagram bios, but soul-deep, blood-and-bone purpose. The kind that wakes you up when the world sleeps. The kind that makes failure irrelevant and comfort unbearable. Purpose is not found. It's forged. It's unearthed in struggle, hammered in silence, tested in pain. It is not a gift. It is a responsibility. When you live with purpose, you no longer chase success. You attract it because the universe bows to the man who knows where he's going and why. When Lincoln stood at Gettysburg, he didn't speak to impress, he spoke with purpose. When Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat, she wasn't looking for fame, she was driven by purpose. When Martin Luther King Jr. stood on the steps and declared a dream, it wasn't ambition, it was purpose on fire. Purpose is what makes your life echo beyond your years. It is what turns a fleeting moment into a timeless legacy. But purpose without action is a fantasy, a beautiful illusion, a prison dressed in gold. You can read all the books, you can watch all the speeches, you can dream big and plan deep. But until you move, until you act, it means nothing. Action is the sword that slices through fear. It's the antidote to doubt. It's how ordinary men become legends. Every empire began with one man moving forward while others hesitated. Every revolution was sparked by someone who refused to stay still. Action transforms thought into momentum, and momentum into miracles. Henry Ford didn't wait for the perfect conditions to build his car. He started with what he had. He didn't have money. He didn't have approval. But he had movement.